Do you ever wish someone would draw you a map and give you the directions to the career of your dreams? If so, consider this podcast your GPS to a career where you feel strong, fulfilled, and passionate about your work, day in and day out. On this show, I am sharing the tools to help you advocate for your strengths, discover your passions, and learn from folks who transformed their careers for the better. My name is Joyel Crawford, your fairy god mentor, and with my 18 years of experience in HR at a Fortune 50 company and 20 years of coaching and mentoring top leaders, I am thrilled to be your guide on this career journey. Let's get started. Hi, and welcome back to Career View Mirror. I'm your host and fairy god mentor, Joyel Crawford. Today, I have a very, very special guest, April Adams. She is the relationship clarity consultant who has helped hundreds of powerful millennial and Gen X women like myself, become emotionally superpowered, achieving peace on autopilot using a proven science based system. Her passion is helping women to get clarity on their relationships by addressing their own emotional baggage so that they can see the relationship for what it truly is and get crystal clear on whether to stay or go and be able to do so in the calmest, most peaceful way possible. April's also the head trainer for leading a mental health app, which hosts her favorite emotional healing tools. She also created and executed the curriculum for a major mental health apps practitioner and therapist training platform. She's been a holistic practitioner of various forms for over 25 years. She's an emotional health consultant, coach, author, hypnosis practitioner, Orpheus therapist, and lead trainer, meditation trainer, and essence energy healer. I think she's got the most titles that I've had on the show to date. She is the creator of the Essence Healing System, co-creator of Remind Tools, and author of two best-selling books and a life-changing workbook. With her many years of experience, she is the foremost authority on overcoming emotional and belief related challenges quickly and easily, making the results that last. I am so excited to have you on the show. Welcome, April.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, I really do believe that you have the most titles I think I've had in any guest that I've had. I've been doing this show for 10 years.
Well, I think maybe I'm doing too much.
A little bit, but you know what? I think that's a really important thing is that you're doing things that light you up, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So it doesn't feel like work. And I know they're like, if you find something that you love, you'll never work a day in your life. But there's something to say about that is that these things light you up. So why not?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I love all of the projects that I've been involved in and everything. It's I feel like it's the marketing of a business
Mhm.
that can be something that is challenging and, tends to start to drag you down because totally if I could just be creating content and serving clients and all of that all the time without having to do all of the marketing and selling aspect of it, I would be, just glowing 24/7.
I am the same way. Like if I can get someone else to do all of that, it just frees you up to do what you really love doing. And I think we share similar dislikes of the
Yeah.
administration
Yeah.
of business owning. So tell me, how did you get into this? I mean, you've been doing this for 25 years, over 25 years. How did you get started?
So originally, some of the more holistic things I was doing was I was a spa manager and I learned reflexology and things like that kind of early on in my career, in my early 20s. I was learning those things. And clients and things in the spa would even tell me I was a healer, and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, because that just wasn't even a thing then. But people were literally coming out with, in the early '90s, going, "You're a healer." I'm going, "What? What even is that?" So, I think it was innately sort of in me from an early age, but what really kicked off my journey was my own emotional suffering,
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
with relationships, of course. You end up serving people with exactly what you go through, and
Mhm.
so it was my own obsession with the honeymoon phase that I just couldn't let go of, that set me on a path of like, okay, I'm the common denominator in all these relationships where they're okay with the end of the honeymoon phase, and I'm literally on the bathroom floor bawling my eyes out and ready to end it all just because the honeymoon phase ended. So, like, what's going on in here that I need that and these people don't need it? So, I started going to therapy and reading self-help books, and just trying everything to get out of my own head
Mhm.
about all of this. And I took a Reiki class.
Oh,
And as soon as I got activated to be able to do Reiki, it just changed everything. Like, I immediately knew this is what I was supposed to be doing. It really connected me with a higher power more than I ever had in my life. And it was just this instant knowing. So,
did you just, like, literally did it hit you like a lightning bolt, like, like you just knew? Like, there wasn't like, you're the healer kind of all made sense? Or
yeah.
was there a certain instance that happened that where you
I
felt
mean, part of it was that I could literally feel the sensation of the Reiki in my hands. It felt like a ball of electricity in my hands. And that was a huge turning point, because to
that?
me, I mean, certainly I had gone to church and done all kinds of things and had never really felt this deep connection
Mhm.
in that. And suddenly this was this moment of, oh yeah, there's something more
Mhm.
than
Mhm.
just what we can see and hear. And so, that was a huge connector for me, and it really activated my intuition and made me trust myself and become far more spiritual than I had ever been. And so,
Mhm.
I continued, and I actually started to implement Reiki into the spa services I was doing, and then had to go off on my own because I didn't feel appropriate in a spa doing spiritual work. So
Right.
I had to go and, like, find my own space and run my own healing business. So I
Mhm.
became a spiritual coach and a Reiki healer and stuff like that. But I kept asking intuitively, like, how do we get permanent results? Because I was finding that even with the Reiki,
Mhm.
both for myself and my clients, that I would do the Reiki on them, or I would work on my own stuff, and a few weeks later, we'd be right back to square one. Like, we'd feel great for a period of time, and then there it was again. And
Mhm.
so I kept going, like, how do we get permanent results? How do we actually clear things for good
Mhm.
instead of working through layer after layer of the same thing over and over again, or, having to, just make these tiny little incremental steps? Like,
Mhm.
how do we find the root and get rid of it? And so everything I kept bringing through was talking about the subconscious mind, and I just kept hearing subconscious mind. I was kind of divinely forced to read a couple of books about subconscious modalities. It was really weird. Um, and so I just set out then to learn everything I could about the subconscious mind. I mean, I had studied some psychology in college and stuff, but
Mhm.
this was a whole new frontier, because they really cover very little about that in
Yes.
college. Um, so I started learning hypnosis and EFT, and I went for some EMDR as well, and, was trying to get the whole toolkit, like
Mhm.
everything you could do to deal with the subconscious. And finally, somebody said, "Hey, have you ever tried these tools called PS Tech?" And I just, for whatever reason, immediately had to go check it out. And I tried it on this obsession with my love life and this need to be wanted, and it cleared in 20 minutes. What I had been working on for literally years
Like your life. Yes.
cleared in 20 minutes.
So,
So,
what did that clearing feel like? Did it feel like something a weight had been lifted off of you? Or, like, can you describe
yeah,
that?
so, prior to doing it,
Mhm.
I had done everything I could to try to change my mindset about things, to be able to reframe my negative thoughts, doing all the stuff we're supposed to do mindfulness wise and inner child healing and blah, blah, blah. And so I found that no matter what I did, my brain was always constantly going like, "Why aren't you flirting with me right now? Why aren't we having sex more often? Why doesn't it look like this?" It's just like, "Rant, rant, rant. Why aren't you proving you want me 24/7?" My brain would just keep doing that no matter what I did.
Mhm.
So I could talk myself down from it, I could ignore it, but it was always running in the background,
Right.
and it was putting this immense pressure on my relationship. I did this 20-minute process and I was like, "Yeah, it kind of feels like it's cleared, but we'll see." Because I've done all these other things and that didn't take care of it. So, we'll see how this goes. And that night my partner got home and we were just talking about our days and stuff. And um suddenly I was like, where are those thoughts? I'm just present in the conversation. I'm not having to tune anything out or refocus myself. I was just able to be present in whatever moment we were in.
Wow.
And it really allowed me to take in the love as it was being conveyed instead of how I was like, "No, it needs to look like this or it's not
Right.
it."
Right.
So, just being able to get that out of the way took so much pressure off the relationship, and we were able to become much more of that honeymoon version of ourselves because all of that pressure was now gone.
Yes.
And I could just let it in and relax into it and enjoy whatever was happening in front of me rather than having this reel in the back of my head, like, "Where is it? Why isn't it like this?" So that's how I knew. It's funny because the subconscious tools don't tend to give you this feeling of like, "Oh, I feel so relieved. I feel so much better. I feel incredible. I feel like I'm floating." Like, no, I mean, you have to kinda wallow in your negative stuff while you do the work, and so it can be a little heavy even while you're doing it. And, yeah, you might feel a little bit of, like, a weight lift off of you when you do, like, when you're complete with it,
Mhm.
but it's more of the results of no longer being triggered in a situation where you typically would have been triggered before,
Mhm.
or no longer obsessing about something that you were helplessly obsessing about before it. So that's really how you can tell, when it's done its thing.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. And then once you did that, you were like, I gotta work this into my services and your tool."
Yes.
So
Yeah.
so is it a like, what is this tool? Is this, like, something that you wear? Is this wording?
Yeah.
Tell me more
So
about.
it's an audio track
Mhm.
that combines the most effective elements of hypnosis, EFT, EMDR, NLP. So it's just kind of taking all of those most proven aspects of the most proven methods and modalities to address the subconscious and puts it into like, a 10 or 12-minute audio track that you listen to while you wallow in what you're wallowing in. Like, so you kind of let your brain do what it wants to do all the time anyway while you do the track, and then the track undoes it by convincing your subconscious that you're safe in the face of what it perceives to be a threat,
Mhm.
and by changing the synaptic connections in your brain, because typically if you have a trigger to something, it's like here you have something that triggers you, and then there's these synapses that connect it to your emotional response to that thing.
Right.
And so the track is kind of like making you light up those parts of your brain, and it's disconnecting those synaptic connections so that the next time you encounter something like that trigger, you just have a neutral emotional response instead of your typical auto emotional response to it.
The brain is a magical thing, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, once you figure it out, it's like you've got the cheat codes because then you
Yes.
can overcome whatever.
Yeah.
And and really, our brain is the thing that blocks us in
It
everything.
it
We always are pointing our fingers outside of us, "So this person is doing this to me," or "The universe is in my way," or "I'm being punished," or whatever. It's always in us. It's always our brains that's getting in the way. So if we can just figure out, "Okay, why is my brain trying to block me? Like, what's the root of this thing? What's the belief I'm carrying that isn't serving me? And being able to clear that on that deeper subconscious level, you open all kinds of doors for yourself because you're no longer just mentally getting in your own way.
Right. Wow, you would make an amazing career coach too, like to add that onto all the other things that you
Well,
have.
a lot of times that is where it ends up going. I mean, a lot of women come to me in the beginning for relationship stuff, and then they resolve their relationship stuff and end up like, okay, like, how do I up level my career, or how do I become a coach too? Or
Wow, wow. And you've been doing this, so when you learned that tool, is that what did that make you feel like that was kinda like the essence of the business that you wanted to get into, or
that did turn
more?
into the primary focus of my
Awesome,
work. Yes.
awesome.
And really my contribution, because I mean, the tools are phenomenal all
Mhm.
on their own, but my contribution to it is that I'm really good at helping people root find. So
Yes.
I help them figure out, where did this originate, so that we're not just taking care of today's trigger, but we're figuring out where this trigger begin, clearing it there, and making it so it doesn't keep popping up in the future. So that's the real trick there, is like, we need to address it on the subconscious level, but we also need to know, like, where did it start?
So, essentially, April, you're working yourself out of a job, like, out of you get, like,
Yes.
one and done with your clients.
Yeah, I tend to work with people for maybe 6 to 9 months and
Mhm,
make them do the work in between sessions. So I'm seeing them like once a month, but they're
mhm.
doing the work in between and just like clearing massive amounts of stuff. Where typically when you work on something with a therapist, you might talk about the same issue for 6 months to a year. If you
Mhm,
go for EMDR, you might be going for weeks or months before you clear a particular trigger.
mhm.
But with this, you're able to do that in usually about 20 minutes. And so then it's just on to the next. So
Yeah,
every day you could be clearing a big, a small, a medium trigger or pattern. And then it's just like, oh, well, if I can clear that, what else can I clear? And it just keeps going on and on. But yeah, really, my goal is that by the end of our work together, they know exactly how to root find, which tool to grab to take care of what issue, so that they essentially don't need me anymore after that. So, yes, that's kind of the bane of my existence. It's like, okay, I help people, and we have a great working relationship, and then they disappear from my life, because they're where they want to be, and they know how to take care of things if anything else crops up in the future. So
wow.
yeah.
That's how I feel with, with the executives and leaders that I coach. They get their problem solved and then they fly away and then
Right.
you never see
Yeah.
them again. But that is a really great, role and career to have, is to get people to get out of their own way. You're
Right.
helping women get out of their own ways. What does a typical day look like for you?
That depends on the day. So I mean, I some days will spend the whole day, seeing clients, whether virtually or in person. Other times I'm working on the business and doing marketing or social media or doing podcast interviews or writing content. So, um, it varies day to day, hour to hour, what that looks like. But, as we talked about, I would say I much prefer actually working in the business rather than on the
On the
business. But,
business. I hear you. I hear you. Anybody who's listening who can be a social media marketing person for April, she's looking for somebody. So help her out. Help us this out. So
Oh my gosh.
that would be fantastic. So I'm going to show my ask and put it out there for our audience. If you're hearing, there might be an opportunity for you to support her as she supports her business. So, what do you think is your why? What's the thing that gets you out of bed in the morning, April?
It's really just wanting everyone to know how fast and easy it can be to get out of your own way. That, all of the stuff you've been working on over and over and over again, there is a way to get out of it, and it doesn't have to be long and tedious and horribly painful and all of that. So I just want as many people as humanly possible to be able to get there.
Mm. I love that.
Yeah.
Helping people as humanly possible to get out of their own way. I love
Yes.
that. I love it. So I have a question that I ask all of my guests is what piece of career advice would you give to the younger April, like little April
Yeah.
about
And that's
career?
what, it's funny because I was thinking about that even before I came on, and I had such a hard time at first coming up with what how what answer I would give to that. And I think one of the main things that really has come up for me a few times is to not give it away for free. Because
Mm,
early on in my coaching and actually multiple times throughout the course of my coaching, I have done things like I had a podcast where I was literally coaching people on the podcast and giving exactly like, here's how you use these tools on this issue. So I was literally therapizing people on the podcast. And so doing free sessions like that. And so people could just, kind of take care of themselves out there like that. But I have multiple times throughout my career done these things where I just give the answers away, give the tools away, give all of it. And every time it's like the universe just gives me the smackdown. Like,
stop
quit
it.
giving it away for free.
Stop.
Your support in this process is invaluable
Yes.
and indispensable. And so, yeah, I mean, if you get a really strong type A personality, they might be able to see, the tools and what I have to say about them and be able to just take it and apply it and get things done. But for the most part, people want and need support and guidance as
Yeah.
they do that level of work on themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, they also thank you for that because, as young entrepreneurs or even tenured or seasoned entrepreneurs, we always as servant leaders, I should say, have this tendency to just give our gifts, give all of our gifts as much as we can, as freely as we can. But you have value, your gift has value. So I love that advice that you give the younger April. Don't give it away. Don't, there's
Right.
value to it. I think there's value in pro bono things as well, but I hear you. There's also something to be said about being paid what we're worth, right? And I know a lot of our audience members listen about that, like the fact that we have value, but we don't always speak up for it or ask for it or charge for it. So,
Right.
oh, that's really great advice. I want to know a little bit more about this tool, these Remind tools that that you've created. Can you tell us a little bit more about those?
Yes, absolutely. And so that's kind of the journey because originally I mentioned that I found those PS Tech tools.
Yeah.
And so those were the original tools that I encountered, and they were put together by a British clinical hypnotherapist who like cures people of their eating disorders and stuff. And he's just really incredible. And he put together these tools as a self-help thing.
Mm,
And then I got certified with them and became a master practitioner of their tools and everything. And then they got bought by Orpheus Mind Technologies. And so now Orpheus Mind Technologies uses the original tools that I used to use.
mhm.
Um, and I was hired by them to do all of their training for their practitioners because I had been doing that work
Mm,
specifically one-on-one with clients for about 8 years at that point. And so they wanted me to come and teach people how to use it on their clients to get the best possible results. So I created their whole training platform for
nice.
practitioners and therapists and stuff. And then through them, I met a colleague of mine who just recently got his master's in clinical psychology and did his thesis on brief therapeutic interventions, which is exactly what these audio tracks
Neat.
are.
Mhm.
And so he did research on, this plethora of methods and modalities that are being released at this point from multiple standpoints
Mhm.
and how much more effective they are than traditional treatments that we are used to seeing available to us.
Mhm.
So he and I have put our heads together and created the mother of all brief therapeutic interventions for negative emotions, for negative memories, for limiting beliefs. And also, we're working currently on a track called the New Reality track for programming in what you do want. Like, how do you want to feel? What do you want to believe? How do you want to behave? And, being able to program that in on the subconscious level so that you really, take off with that. So, we are currently putting the finishing touches on the app for that. So, it should be released shortly.
That's so cool.
And so it's a series of audio tracks that you can use for, various issues. So if you've got a memory that you're like, oh, I wish I could just erase that memory. Well, you can't erase the memory, and it wouldn't really serve you to erase the memory. You still want the lessons you learned from
It's what
something.
shapes you. Yes.
But it's like what kicks you in the gut when you think of that memory. Let's clear that so that you
Mhm.
can look at the memory more clearly and calmly and go, okay, what would we like to avoid or change about that? But let's like take the emotional sting out of it. So, so you can use that on any kind of negative memory, or you can clear different intense emotional reactions to things, and so it's a whole collection of different tools that address things on the subconscious level.
Mhm.
And then, it's great if you know maybe what your roots are and what
Yes.
created the trigger for you in the first place. But if not, it may be a good idea to work with a practitioner who can, guide you through the whole process, which, me.
That's you.
Um, but yes, we hope to have these tools out very soon, and we'll even be doing like a 3-day trial of the tools first, so people can kind of get a little taste test for them before they commit to a subscription to the tools. And so yeah, it's re-mind.co for people who check this out in the future. It should be, I'm guessing, probably within a month or two,
Okay.
out and available. So
Okay.
yeah,
This is
super excited about the launch of that.
Yes, that is very exciting, and I'm already, like, in my brain, I'm like, "Okay, I need to, like, square away some sessions." I feel like the work that you do is such, an a an awesome addition to the work that you do in therapy. Like, I've been CBT in
Yes.
myself for,
Yep. Yes.
decades, and so now I think once you get to the root, now you can really just kind of like extract it and I love this,
Yeah.
taking the power out of these negative memories, and being
Yeah.
able to reprogram the brain. It's just
And
amazing.
that's exactly the thing, because this work is very advanced work.
Mhm.
Because typically people need to go to therapy first. They
Mhm.
need, first of all, to have their feelings validated, because
Yes.
typically, if you've been through a lot, chances are you had a lot of feelings and had to stuff them down because they were being invalidated or shamed or punished or whatever. So,
Mhm.
there's this phase where, okay, you need your feelings validated for a little bit. And then you need to learn why you want to stop having
Yeah.
these reactions, and you want to be able to put a positive spin on what you've experienced. And so
Mhm.
that's where like the CBT and DBT come in. And so it's a step by step process.
Mhm.
But at some point in all of that, you get to a place where you're like, yeah, this is great. It's wonderful to have my feelings validated. It's great to know how I should be thinking and feeling. But how do I actually get there? How do I get
Now
relief from the feelings?
yes.
And
Right.
that's where the subconscious comes in. Because, I mean, you've done the conscious work, and that's very important to do the conscious work. But there's an extra step. And so, yes, this works really well in combination with therapy. It works really well as the next step once people feel like they've plateaued in therapy.
Mhm. Mhm. This is amazing.
Yeah.
The remind tools.
Yes.
Remind tools. I'm excited. I mean, I can't wait for this launch. I mean, the work that you're doing is amazing, and to continue to have this career of making sure people, just women especially, get out of their own way, um, is super helpful. What any words of advice, like one more question. Any words of advice for our audience in getting out of their own way? I know this is
Mhm.
a free piece of advice.
Yeah.
I know it's a free piece,
Yep.
but any words of advice on making the first step of getting out of their own way, aside from calling you?
Right. Well, the ending thought that I always have is, that if you want lasting, fast results on clearing anything emotional, you have to deal with it on the subconscious level. Like that's hands down my top piece of advice for anyone dealing with anything. Um, but that as far as first steps go, that's not a first step. I think really the first step is recognizing that the issue, no matter how much it looks like it's outside of you, it's most likely inside your brain. And that you need some healing. You need to heal the trauma that you've been through, and you need to get some support and understanding. So that's to me the first thing, and that's what set me on my whole path too, was recognizing I'm the common denominator in all of these relationships that have blown up because the honeymoon phase ended. So what's in me that I need to change and heal so that I'm not so miserable and making everyone in my relationships miserable along with me. So that's a good question to always ask yourself. Like, what is it in me that's
That's
freaking out or requiring this or whatever, so that you can get going on your healing of it.
Wow. Thank you so much. This is
Thank
amazing.
you.
The gems that you dropped about everything. It's just amazing. So, I mean, thank you for helping us take a deeper look inside
Well,
your
thank you.
career, April Adams. And we're going to share all of the information on how we can contact you, your website. Do you have a link for the Remind tool?
The link for the Remind tools is re-mind.co.
Okay, .co, not
Yep.
com. Okay.
Right.
All right.
Yep.
We'll make
Yeah.
sure that we
And
put that in there.
if you want to get on the mailing list for that, you can go to either of my websites, apriladams.org or refineyourmind.life, and sign up for the mailing list there. And you'll definitely be notified once we launch with that, because you'll be on my mailing list. So love to
Fabulous.
see you there.
Yes. Thank you, April Adams.
Thank you so much. I love the space that you hold for everything that you do.
Mm. I'm just like, I'm receiving that. I'm just gonna
Mhm.
marinate in that a little bit. You audience members, you're gonna have to deal with it. I'm just gonna receive it. I'm just letting it sit. Oh,
Let it in.
thank you so much, and thanks for finding me. April found me online, and I think that if you are interested in being a guest, you can just show your ask and ask. That's what April did, and so I truly appreciate it. I'm so glad you found me and asked, and just enlightened us with your gift. Thank you so much for being on the show. And if you liked what you've seen, everybody, and heard, like and subscribe, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much for listening to Career View Mirror. If you got value from this episode, please consider leaving a rating and a review for the show on Apple Podcasts, or head on over to Spotify and click 5 stars for our show. We also have a YouTube channel with video versions of our episodes, so subscribe over there for more content. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next episode.